Good morning, Isa. So audience is about to
I'm Inga Jacobs-Mata. I'm the regional representative for the International Water Management Institute Southern Africa offices. So that's South Africa, Zambia, and Zimbabwe, and also now the new director for water growth and inclusion. So I lead an wonderfully exciting initiative called Ukama Ustawi. It's the CGIAR's regional integrated initiative for Eastern Southern Africa. And it's all about how we diversify and sustainably intensify maize-based systems through different mechanisms, but some of them being agribusiness acceleration. So we have a strong focus on supporting the agribusiness ecosystem in Eastern Southern Africa, and then in the enhancement of digital agro-advisory services. So that's sort of enhancing the delivery of climate information services in this region. I think it reaffirms what we have been doing, this emphasis on partnerships, this emphasis on really supporting local partners and local institutions. So we have, under U2 a phrase, together we grow and develop. And it's sort of solutions for the region, by the region. So really I was encouraged about, just the amount of partners actually that we are connected with. That was the one thing. And also this issue around scaling. That in order to reach the 300 million farmers in Africa, we have to go wide, reach as many through our scaling innovations, and make sure that we're talking about use, we're talking about technology adoption, not just access to all of these innovations as well.
Please join our next seminar in the Catalyst of Change series.
Welcome to the Catalyst of Change Women Leaders in Science seminar series. We would like to remind you that this seminar has interpretation available in English, Spanish, French, and Hindi. We invite you to follow us in LinkedIn, YouTube, social media using the hashtag Women in Science for the Catalyst of Change Women Leaders in Science seminar series. Seminars. We invite you to submit your questions and comments on Slido to be addressed in the Q&A session right after the presentation and conversation with our distinguished speaker of today. We will be hearing today from an leader of the CGR for Eastern and Southern Africa, Inga Jacobs-Mata, who is Director of Water, Growth and Inclusion at the International Water Management Institute. She is based in Pretoria, South Africa, and also she is the regional representative for the IWMI Southern Africa Regional Office. Right after her presentation, Inga Jacobs-Mata will have a conversation with Nayeli Hernandez-Espinosa, who is a researcher assistant in the Wheat Quality and Chemist Laboratory at CIMMYT headquarters. Hernandez-Espinosa has written and contributed to several scientific research articles related to wheat quality and nutritional processing and end-use quality of the grain. She has a PhD on biotechnology. Now, I would like to welcome Brian Gobarts, Director General of CIMMYT, to officially open the event and introduce our distinguished speaker of today, Dr. Inga Jacobs-Mata. Dr. Gobarts, over to you.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Here we are again for another Catalyst of Change Women Leaders in Science webinar. As you well know, we launched this TED Talk meets Fireside Chat style series because we want more women leaders in science organizations like ours. And as somebody very smart once said, you can't be what you can see. So in order to achieve a goal of a broader representation in our community, we want to show different leadership styles. We want to learn from opportunities and lessons learned of those women leaders, their life journeys, their insights. How did they get there? How did they do it? What can we learn from it? We highlight women who are leaders in all sorts of capacities, in all different fields, in all different disciplines, but also they can be leaders of their community, they can be leaders of their country, they can be leaders of their community and leaders of the world. Therefore, I am very honored today to present to you a true catalyst of change, Inga Jacobs-Mata, who I've had the honor to work with and get to know more in the past years in the frame of the CJR initiatives. She's the Director of Water Growth and Inclusion at the International Water Management Institute and based in Pretoria, South Africa. She's also the regional representative, actually, for IWMI, for the South African Regional Office. She's a political scientist and holds a PhD in international relations from St. Andrews University, Scotland, as well as a master's degree in international relations, political science from Stellenbosch University, South Africa. Inga is specialized in environmental and water governance. Her areas of expertise include climate information, service delivery, the politics of climate change operationalization, what a difficult word, in the water, energy, and food nexus, and its governance frameworks that include water stewardship, community-based approaches to self-supply water, hybrid water law, and environmental migration. But above all, Inga is a very lovely person who has key insights, and I am sure that she will be a very enjoyable speaker to listen to. I'm not going to give all her accolades and projects where she has participated, but I do know that recently she was the driving force behind UU, one of the, and that's not the pop group, but one of the regional integrated initiatives, and I'm sure she will share some of those experiences. I'm also very, very, very happy that there will be a fireside chat with our own catalyst of change internally here from CIMMET, and together I'm sure there will be sparks on the screen. Therefore, I'm sure that we will enjoy and learn a lot from Inga's outstanding leadership experience. And without further ado, Inga, the floor is all yours.
Thank you so much, Bram, for those very kind words. And Isabel, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all the listeners. Thank you for joining. If only I could claim that I was the driving force for you to the pop group, I would be able to retire, have an early retirement. But alas, the work continues for Kamo Stawi. So thank you so much for that introduction, Bram. And thank you for inviting me to share part of my story in this expansive and vital field of agri-food systems with you. When I was invited to speak, I felt this really profound responsibility, of addressing the future leaders and change makers in this field. And I reflected on what insights might resonate with you. And so I looked for inspiration in the impactful words of some of the iconic figures. Steve Jobs, he urges us to find and do what we love because, you will spend a significant part of your life at work. Love your work, he says, and the love for your work amplifies your potential to achieve greatness. If you haven't found that spark yet, keep searching, never settle. Michelle Obama, she spoke about the liberation that comes from understanding that setbacks and criticisms are mere noise. They do not define you. They cannot diminish your worth or derail your progress. Oprah Winfrey, and we all love Oprah, highlighted the importance of learning from every experience. Oprah says your mistakes are not just obstacles, but opportunities to grow and refine your true self. So discover your internal compass and it will guide your choices and your actions. But here's the reality, certainly my reality, and hopefully this resonates with some of you on the call. But our paths are often not as straightforward as that, right? Many of us live in circumstances that make those words challenging to achieve, let alone believe. We face constraints, we make compromises, sometimes doubt our choices, and our journeys take very unexpected turns. My journey as a researcher was similarly unexpected. In fact, it would really be great to hear from you all in the chat. How many of you knew or planned or aspired to doing what you do now when you were a child? Can I just have a sense in the chat? How many of you really, really knew that you would become an agronomist or a breeder or the scientist that you are today? I bet many of you, like me, have. So Kevin says, "Not me." Thank you, Kevin, for your honesty. In fact, I'm very much in that same boat. My journey as a researcher was very unexpected. So here's just a little bit about that journey. I was born and raised on the Cape Flats in Cape Town, South Africa. For those of you who know about the Cape Flats, you'll understand that it's a major contrast to the rural areas that we work in, in CGIR, but perhaps in some other ways equally challenging to survive. I also grew up in the tail end of apartheid and witnessed its abolishment, as well as the transition to a democratic dispensation in South Africa. Now, growing up, particularly at that time, your life, not only mine, many South Africans like me, your life was filled with stereotypes. I was a Cape colored girl, and apologies to my North American colleagues on the call. It has a very different meaning in the South African context than it does in North America. It refers to the mixed race ethnic group that is very particular and specific to the Cape region in South Africa. But I was a Cape-colored girl, a previously disadvantaged individual, a person of color, first and foremost. And in many ways, those stereotypes continue to shape how I navigate the world and how others see me. But luckily, I was fortunate to have parents who, though not the richest or most educated, instilled in me the power of knowledge and what an education could provide. And that encouraged me. They encouraged me. That meant working hard, finding opportunities, and creating opportunities. My first scholarship came in grade 11. That allowed me to finish high school at Lipo Chun United World College in Hong Kong, which was a very rare opportunity for a 16-year-old girl from Cape Town. And it was really one of the most rewarding experiences of my life because it exposed me to diverse cultures and friendships from all walks of life. It instilled in me this principle of how can there be peace in the world if people don't understand each other? And how can this be if they don't know each other? Anyway, after graduating, I applied for many university scholarships and received a full scholarship to study at Grinnell College in Iowa in the USA, which if you know where Iowa is, it's in the middle of cornfields, in the middle of nowhere, really. But it gave me this liberal arts education that taught me to think deeply and reflexively and compassionately about the world around me. Here's where the road takes a little bit of a twist, because after graduating, I naively thought that I could immediately secure a job in South Africa, because I had always wanted to return back to Africa, perhaps as a diplomat or some other, very romantic profession. However, after applying for, and get this, 83 jobs, receiving 3 replies, and only 1 interview, which I didn't get, I felt disillusioned and need I say a little bitter. So I returned home to regroup, to lick my wounds, took on part-time jobs. But in that process, I also discovered the passion for research, and I decided to pursue further studies. So I funded my own way through my master's degree, where a module on conflict in Africa and resource conflicts really shaped my journey henceforth. So this module was really about how the Third World War could be about natural resources like oil, water, or diamonds. And my professor at the time, Professor Willy Breitenbach, was, I guess, entertained by the way in which I navigated this debate, refusing to believe that something as vital to life as water could cause the implosion of the world order, that a tool for peace and cooperation could be a weapon of war. And so he encouraged me to focus my dissertation on this topic. And that, my friends, set the future, my future in water and then environmental governance. And the rest is, as they say, history. My research led me to receive another full scholarship to pursue a PhD at St. Andrews University in Scotland that allowed me to focus specifically on water governance in Africa. And continue, refining my thought in these areas. But of course, studying this very cross-cutting field and applying it are two totally different things. I started to work in the water sector in Southern Africa and was somewhat of an oddball. And I'd really like to also see in the chat how many of you can relate to this, but I was still very much a girl, of color in a white male-dominated sector. And don't get me wrong, I am very fortunate to have many of them as mentors, and who have shaped who I have become today. But gender and race aside, perhaps most challenging was working in a sector dominated by biophysical and engineering capabilities and mindsets. So I did what any survivor would do, right? I used whatever I had in my arsenal: wit, charm, brute strength, sharp elbows, anything to advocate and fight for my space. That is, to wear my social science lens to see and analyze the world around me. And for me, the turning point in my career was when I stopped fighting for social science to be included and started to lead large transdisciplinary projects. Taking on transdisciplinary teams and embracing transdisciplinarity as an individual, as a social scientist in a largely natural science dominated space was in fact my space. And that's how I sort of found my place in the water sector. And maybe just coming back to what we do in CGIAR and in agri-food systems, what I found was so applicable in how this transdisciplinary mindset and lens can support and reinforce the work that we do today. In Africa, our mega adaptation challenge involves dealing with drought, floods, climate variability, and various combinations of these. We work to build the resilience of smallholder farmers and other vulnerable groups in coping with all of these shocks, right? And it's the combination of all of these vulnerabilities coming together in the very same season. We live in regions that have become now climate hotspots, and in regions where farming as we know it today will not be feasible in many places. So where, when, and how we farm will need to change dramatically. As a famous person also once said, addressing our current challenges requires both doing things differently and doing the things we currently do differently. We face now with new and emerging challenges in the agri-food systems that we work in: climate change, growing fragility, social inequality. Most of the megatrends that the ISDC, in fact, speak about demand more integrated levels of ingenuity and expertise from a diverse set of backgrounds. And no amount of technical and even scientific ingenuity is adequate if the solutions generated are not relevant, digestible, and acceptable to the various socio-political and socio-economic contexts of our time. And so I found that embracing transdisciplinarity was a key tool to helping me navigate this. So maybe just to share a couple of words on transdisciplinarity. To me, transdisciplinarity is more than a new discipline or super. It's not even new anymore. It's really a way of seeing the world, a more systemic and holistic way of seeing the world. And by working through the lens of multiple perceptions to understand different forms of reality, transdisciplinarity helps facilitate this deeper understanding of these very complex problems. For me, it's about acknowledging different levels and perspectives of reality, both the objective and the subjective. And I know as a scientist, I'm bordering on sensationalist here, but honestly, if we were to think about our science as one knowledge or as one lens, we know that there are very many other forms of reality as well within our social systems. Information and knowledge can be empirical, it can be pragmatic, it could be ethical, but it could also be local, indigenous, undocumented. So basically derived from various sources, including experts, cultural practices, as well as ordinary citizens. Now we also have to contend with non-humans in the form of AI. Knowledge production is also inclusive, involving multiple actors, such as experts from various disciplines, but also civil society, government, end users. And this kind of intercommunicative process helps produce more relevant, appropriate, and trusted knowledge. So understanding, all of this as well as the very specific context of a problem is really essential, including culture, including people, including history, politics, as well as the biophysical specificities. Now, I know that it's easier said than done, and transdisciplinarity within teams is really becoming more and more the norm. But also embracing transdisciplinarity as an individual, for me, is another level of advancement, I would say. For me, how we can embrace transdisciplinarity as individuals is really about how we build networks within the domain of the unfamiliar. So collaborating with people beyond one's discipline or sector or department. In fact, for me, the most rewarding thing about the regional initiative that Bram spoke about, U2 or Kama Ustawi, was that I got the opportunity to really engage deeply and collaborate with colleagues within Summit, but also across CGIAR. For me, that was really the value add of the CGIAR initiatives and now also the science programs. But also embracing transdisciplinarity is about how we engage in meaningful dialogue. So not just, collaborating for collaboration's sake, but really going that step further to understand, to co-create with other stakeholders and partners, and also acknowledging and managing power dynamics. We know that when we do this, oftentimes the playing field is not level, and by acknowledging that, it's the first step towards addressing it in these transdisciplinary teams. So really, in conclusion, what I'd like to leave you with that hopefully will resonate and will inspire is, embracing the unexpected. So the idea that every twist in your path is an opportunity to learn and grow, to seek opportunities, be proactive, and when necessary, create your own opportunities. The efforts you put in place today can really open up doors that you never expected. And And then finally, and particularly within our work in agri-food systems transformation, these issues are complex, and solving them really requires a collaborative approach across various disciplines, but that as individuals, we can also embrace transdisciplinarity at a much deeper level, in addition to what we can achieve in teams. So with that, Isabel, let me leave it at that and really look forward to the discussions. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. So Nayeli will go ahead.
Thank you.
Nayeli, over to
Thank you, Isabel. Thank you, Dr. Inga. Thank you very much for your excellent presentation. And thank you too for the participation of the audience. Dr. Inga, thank you for telling us about your professional journey and how you have faced the challenges, the balance between your work and your life, and tell us about your mentors. Very interesting. Thank you very much. So, Dr. Inga, in order to get to know you more, I have some questions for you. Okay? Thank you. As a woman leader, what makes you feel like you are an inspiration of the other women?
Wow, that's actually a lot more challenging to answer, Nayeli. I mean, I don't consider. I don't wake up in the morning thinking, that I would be an inspiration. I guess my actions is what I hope would inspire. So sort of leading by example, really. But when it comes to also working with women especially in the science domain, in the agri-food system, there's really more and more now, I would say, but certainly a lot needs to be done to ensure that we can support, young women to build and grow their careers. And that's what I choose to spend my time on. I've often been, people have often asked me, sort of, why the focus on, are you preferentially, favoring women in recruitment? And I say, I'm not, favoring women. I do hire men, but only if they're good enough.
Okay.
So
Okay.
yeah, I guess it's just a way of really trying to be purposeful and intentional about recruiting and supporting women through their journeys.
Thank you very much for this enjoy responsibility. You enjoy this responsibility. For this, you are a mentor of many women around the world. Thank you. So at this moment, do you plan to stop here, like director in water, growth, and inclusion in South Africa? Or what projects do you have for the future?
Definitely not. I think many people in CGIAR, the great thing about working in CGIAR is finding sort of quite like-minded people that, work is such a passion for them. On the other hand, it could also become a bit of a curse, right? That we are so driven by our work, but really thinking of it positively. It is really a passion. So I don't see myself definitely not stopping. In fact, now, we are, I'm really excited that I am contributing to the design of the CGIAR scaling program with one of your very own summit colleagues, Tim Krupnik. And that's been quite an, challenging, but also exciting process, taking what we have done in the regional integrated initiatives and now amplifying that to a global program. So that's really sort of in the immediate, in very short term, what keeps me going at this stage.
Okay, very good projects. So what about your personal life? Do you projects here?
Pardon, can you just repeat that, Nayeli?
In your personal life, do you projects?
do
for the future? What's your projects?
Okay. So personally, I look forward to a relocation. So I will be relocating my family from South Africa to Kenya soon. And that's quite a big move for us. Moving kids and family, household and all, um, uh, is a really big one. But already just balancing work and life is a challenge in and of itself, as I'm sure you know. I have 2 kids, and I'm married, and that is also, balancing work with those personal commitments has always been a personal challenge of mine. But looking forward to the relocation as well.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Inga. Are there things that you have to sacrifice to achieve your dreams?
Wow. I think, yeah, that's a challenging one. It would be great to hear what colleagues also on the call compromised, but I think we all do at times. Like I said, being a woman in a leadership position and managing a family and a household, for me, really challenging. And people who say, they can do it and still look good, really, I would like to read that book. It's really a lot more challenging than what we sometimes let out, right? We were just chatting before the call about how our travel schedules and how difficult it is, right? Nowadays, traveling, every second week, really, you often do compromise some of that valuable family time. And I've met so many colleagues like me as well, who 10 years down the line, they look back, and if they mention a regret, it's the time that they spend with their family that could have been, more. So I would say that is my constant battle, trying to really, balance those two.
Okay, the balance of the time.
Mm.
Okay, so at this moment, Inga, you are a leader woman. So how did you get up every morning to be able to lead? Do you have any routine or habits to start every day?
Oh my goodness me. I don't think I have a daily routine apart from having a generally positive outlook on life. So I do know that some, my energy levels can be a little bit overwhelming at times. I guess that is my natural state of being, just being a little bit of an optimist and an idealist. But I will say at times that has been tested. And the number of times that I had to walk into a bathroom or a quiet space and do a power pose just to compose myself in a meeting or in an engagement that was particularly challenging is something that I've had to do. So I'm sure many on the call can also relate to, imposter syndrome, where you're really constantly doubting yourself and whether or not do you live up to it? Do you have what it takes? Maybe you don't. And what am I doing here? Am I worth it? Right. And so one of my strategies is literally that power pose where you go into a quiet place and you just take that deep breaths and to regroup. So whatever you need to do to really remove yourself from that situation that is particularly challenging, and regroup, that sort of keeps me sane at times.
Yeah. Do you have a lot of activities you need to remove and concentrate it in the release activities? Okay. All people, Inga, we have all thought that we can change the world. At this moment, how do you think you have contributed to transforming it?
Wow. If I can be so bold, I would hope anyway that the work that we do in Africa with Summit and other partners, transforming the lives of smallholder farmers and other vulnerable groups, right? Whether it's one practice, conservation agriculture practice, or one technical assistance provided to an agribusiness. All of these many small activities that contribute to changing the lives of people on the ground. I would say that cumulatively is really what keeps me going. So I would hope that my efforts there have made a little impact.
Yeah, thank you very much for your contribution in Africa, Inga. If life gave you the opportunity to start over, would you repeat your story, or do you choose the same path, or would you make some changes?
That's an interesting question, because we always think that there's benefit in hindsight. So we always think that an older version of us is wiser than a younger version, having lived the life. Sometimes I like to turn that around. And I've thought, I wonder what a younger version of me would have said about who I am today. So it's thinking about it a little bit differently, and it would, I think a younger person would tell me to stop and smell the roses and have a little bit more fun, and not take myself too seriously. And so maybe that's a roundabout way of answering your question, Nayeli. I think just making sure that we do that. A colleague of ours recently, in fact, one of our ride shops for our program was really determined to have a session on work-life balance. And, at first it took us away from the content, and we thought, do we really want to spend time on this? But it was so revealing. And in a way, it almost, it just brought everybody back to the reality that, yes, we have these very important tasks to do, ahead with designing science programs and implementing work. But there's all of this other stuff, work, people, personal lives that we are still embedded within. And it's really important to remind ourselves of that.
Very good answer. Thank you. So there are keywords for you: create the opportunities, work with passion, contribution, and balance of life. Thank you very much. And I have added my last question. What is your favorite book?
My favorite book, goodness me, I have so many. Of course, I'm a mother of a 6-year-old and a 9-year-old at the moment. So you must forgive me if, Roald Dahl is really front and center at the moment. And the BFG, the Big Friendly Giant, has really been taking up a lot of my time. So let me leave it at that. The Big Friendly Giant, BFG, has made me smile a lot lately.
Okay, amazing. Thank you, Inga. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Nayeli, and thanks everybody.
Thank you, Nayeli, for having this very rich conversation with Inga Jacobs-Mata. Thank you, Inga, for sharing with us your thoughts and reflections. And now we would like to open the floor for questions from the audience. We invite you to raise your hand, to turn on your camera and unmute yourself if you would like to ask a question or comment, or you can submit it via Slido. So we have received several questions, and there is one over here. How do you describe a leader, or what would be your recommended leader style? It could be your own, or what it could make the difference about leadership.
That's a really interesting one, because I think there's, different leadership styles needed for different situations. I've seen, and perhaps maybe my leadership style is a bit more on the consultative side, a little bit more on the sort of ideation. So I like to spend a lot of time inspiring teams to come up with ideas, right? And I spend a lot of time consulting with partners. It's also exhausting. I won't lie. So my leadership style is an exhausting one. But that's just how I see the world. And there's a time and a place for that leadership style, but also I think there are spaces and places for results-focused leadership, where you really need a kind of a can-do and a doing, especially in the implementation of projects and initiatives. So I would say, I think there's so many different types, and it really is about the context, right?
Yeah, thank you so much. We have already one person from the audience ready for making questions. Joyce, would you please open your micro and your camera and go ahead? I think we don't listen to you, Joyce. Okay. Okay, Joyce, while you get ready, we have another question.
Yes, sorry.
Okay,
Yes, sorry.
very good.
I didn't
Excellent.
have the right to unmute. Now I have. Thank you very much. Right. Hi, Inga. Good to see
I know
you.
this voice.
Yes, I know you too. And it's good to see you, Inga. So personally have had the chance to meet you in person. You are full of energy, and now listening to your story, one of my take homes is you applying for 83 jobs, being called for 3, and interviewed for 1, and you never got it, and that had nothing on you. You never gave up, So I'm just wondering, what keeps you going? What makes you wake up? What gives you energy, Inga?
Thank you, Joyce. And it's so lovely to see you as well. So just a little backstory. Joyce and I, we met at the Award Women in Leadership course, which was transformative. For any women leaders on the call who have not taken that course, I highly recommend it. And not only because it took place in Mombasa, which is beautiful, but really transformative content. So that's where I met Joyce some years back. But Joyce, yeah, I mean, I think it's I don't have what keeps you up? What keeps you going? It's really that experience of job hunting after university took a major toll on my self-esteem, and so having to rebuild, build yourself back, took some time. I won't lie, and every so often you go through experiences like that really test your resolve. Sometimes they chip away at the person, and sometimes and if you're lucky you can piece yourself back, but it's really not, there's no easy answer for me, there's no silver bullet in that way.
All right. Thank you, Inga. Thanks, Isabel.
Sorry, I was muted. Thank you so much, Joyce, for your kind question. So we have more questions from the audience from Slido, and here we have one. You have worked with CIMIT. From your point of view, have we made progress? What can we do better?
What can CIMIT do better?
Yes.
Or
What would
us
be your
together?
recommendations?
I think what you are doing with this webinar is amazing. And I don't just say that flippantly. I know after discussions with SIG and some of my CIMIT colleagues, in Southern Africa, the challenge of recruiting women in your space is a lot harder than what it is for IWMI, for example. Finding, women agronomists, or it's a challenge. And I would say what you've done with a webinar like this, but also other practices, really trying to support women scientists, women professionals, is transformative in and of itself. I mean, how do we change the face of agronomy? How do we do that as a collective, right? It's only through small steps. It's only through small steps like this one. And encouraging scientists, profiling them, learning from each other. In fact, this is also one, really great best practice I will take back to IWMI, of how we can also learn from other colleagues in CGIAR. So I would say you've made progress.
Thank you so much. It says you mentioned in your talk that there were about some stereotypes about women. So how do you think we can change how we can be ready to combat these stereotypes in the agri-food systems?
I think, first of all, acknowledging that those stereotypes exist is the first step. And then acknowledging that we hold stereotypes is the next step. So I'm sure many of you would have either taken a course or heard about unconscious bias, and that's this notion that we all hold deeply entrenched, often subconscious biases about others. It is in the way we recruit somebody, right? An affinity bias. It's how we recruit somebody that is very similar to us. They might not look like us, but they are similar in perhaps skills, or similar in preferences, mannerisms. Maternity bias, right? How we subtly or subconsciously judge somebody who is about to go on maternity leave, whether we think we are helping them or not, right? Thinking to take them out of conversations of projects because they're going on maternity leave, or handing something over because they can't handle it, they're going on maternity leave. So I think just and we all hold those biases, those unconscious biases. And the first step is in acknowledging that we do, and then being really intentional about addressing it within ourselves. I would say that's perhaps a good first step.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. About talking about obstacles that you may have across in your professional career, what would be the words of wisdom that you could share with young and mid-careers women professionals and people in general who might be struggling with similar issues? What would be your words of wisdoms and recommendations?
I always found value in finding a mentor. And there are different mentors that you can have. You can have multiple mentors for different things. You can have mentors that help you navigate, work-life balance. You can have mentors that help you progress in your career from a technical perspective. There are mentors that you can reach out to on, things as sort of perhaps central as financial planning, planning for your retirement. So I would say, and I found the value of mentors really really helpful in building up my survival toolkit. They help you survive. They help you navigate through these challenges, and having somebody that you can talk to through it is particularly helpful.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, mentorship, planning, quite important. If you were to create a superhero profile for yourself, what would be your superpowers and why?
Um, so I'm quite a big picture thinker. If I were to have some kind of superpower, it would likely be something like foresight, or it would be something that allows me to see into the future, because that's just my natural disposition, thinking big picture, strategically. I like to design large projects, long term. Yeah, I would say, but also perhaps um, self-regulating. If I could teleport, that would be amazing. If I could travel and be in Dubai one day and in the evening be at home with my kids, wouldn't that be amazing, huh? If we could do that.
Yeah, family. It's very important, family. Um, okay, about your area of expertise, water, growth, inclusion. Currently, our world is facing important challenges about climate change, resilience. What would be your advice for us? How could we raise awareness? How could we better? How we could do better for challenging or avoiding or helping our world to be better, no? For water, growth, inclusion. Thank you.
I think this point that I raised, and it's worth reiterating, in my talk on embracing transdisciplinarity as individuals. For me, it's a really helpful way of navigating these very complex. In systems thinking, we refer to it as wicked problems. So it's these very complex problems in the world that oftentimes there's no one solution, and perhaps even no solution at all. Let's say in some circumstances. So transdisciplinarity is really about how we recognize both, as I said, the diversity within our discipline, within our sector, within our context, and understanding how these relate to each other. And this is what enables collaboration and problem solving across disciplines. So embracing transdisciplinarity is really about seeing oneself as part of a whole, identifying linkages across issues, across sectors, across scales. It also means that we need to be very modest in our positionality. I often use this example that, and again, this might be a bit contested, let's say, but science is only one knowledge that stakeholders and partners use today. And in many cases, it's not the most important one. If we see the growing role of AI, fake news, right? We see all of these other knowledges or forms of evidence that maybe evidence is not the word, but different forms of knowledge, right? However they are constructed, science needs to contend with all of these others. The notion that science is, neutral and impartial is really being tested today, and having this kind of transdisciplinary view really makes one very modest in our positionality, and also acknowledging how imperfect, right, science is and evidence creation is in our context. So yeah, let me leave it at that.
Yeah, thank you. And following your conversation, in your experience, what would be the advice then to give the woman in science?
I think support each other, right? And again, this is much easier said than done. I've certainly experienced in the workplace that women tend to not all women are collaborative. Not all women support each other. Right? We know we've encountered, I'm sure everyone on the call has encountered, if you're a woman, you encounter another woman, the first, the instinct is to compete. Or another instinct is, I've made it here and I've made it the hard way. I'm not going to give you a boost because I've had to do it the hard way. And those kind of attitudes don't really help and support the collective. So now the question is that favoritism? Is it favoritism in the workplace? Is it preferential treatment? And we have to be careful about that. But I think giving that kind of support is really it can be subtle, but it's really important in helping to boost, especially early career professionals, women professionals, right? That do have a much harder journey at times, especially in our fields. So that really goes a long way, I would say.
Thank you so much. These are very valuable advices. So we are about to close these seminars, this session. What would be your final advice, your final thoughts to close this event of today?
Just to say thank you so much for this opportunity. Thank you, Bram and Sig, and everybody else for listening in. Having these really open and honest discussions are not common, and we should definitely be having more of it. So well done, Sumit, and I look forward to also listening in on many more. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Inga, Inga, for sharing with us your professional and personal journey on science, leadership, raising the importance of being creative, transdisciplinary, step forward to co-create with our other stakeholders, embracing the unexpected, creating our own opportunities, and look forward for a collaborative approach. Working and family balance, that is also quite important. And thank you also for sharing with us all those lessons, all those experiences that you have learned through this professional and personal journey. And we wish you the best for your early retirement. Enjoy your family. And we wish you the best for the rest of the upcoming and nicely and so exciting projects that you may that you must have probably. So on behalf of, excuse me, on behalf of Dr. Brian Govertz, Director General of CIMMYT, we thank you so much for your valuable time for being here today. And thank you very much for sharing with us your personal rich experience and professional growth. So also we thank the audience that joined today. And please do not miss our following Catalyst of Change Women Leaders in Science series. Have a nice day. Have a nice evening. Thank you all.
My name is Julia Sibia. I'm an associate professor of plant breeding at the University of KwaZulu-Natal in Pietermaritzburg, South Africa. So when you talk of agriculture, people quickly think, oh, farming, you're doing manual things and whatever. So in the end, you don't get many students coming to fields in agriculture because they are not aware agriculture is actually a science, a real science that you're focusing on. I would like to actually raise awareness on the importance of agriculture, especially with the challenges that we are facing, which are affecting food insecurity and malnutrition, which is a reality actually in most African countries. And so we need to address this, and we need people who can address this. So if we can train more scientists who can work to address these problems, then the better. I'm really passionate about having more people come to agricultural sciences.
Please join our next seminar in the Catalyst of Change series.